And so making sure that in our community, we are fair, we are open, we are compassionate. We're not catty, clicky, gossipy, all of those things. We really speak our truths and walk our truths to the best of our ability. And when we falter, we own up to it and make amends for it. Those are very woody qualities, but they also lead right into the earth quality of caretaking and caregiving and bringing this idea of love being the fountain of everything, bringing that back into the center of all the elements. Welcome to the world of energy, where science meets spirit. Ancient wisdom merges with cutting-edge knowledge, and the possibilities for a healthier, happier you are endless. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Energy Works. I am here today with Blaine. Hi, Blaine.
Hey, Lauren.
And we're going to talk about differences and similarities. And I just think it's really funny starting this off. You can see I'm wearing a scarf and a hat. I have a shawl behind me just in case it gets even colder while we're podcasting. Blaine is in a tank top with her hair down. And so already we're establishing that we are, I guess at this point, polar opposites. Would you say that at this moment, Blaine?
I actually say that about us often. Lauren likes dogs. Blaine likes cats. Lauren likes winter. Blaine likes summer. Lauren's an omnivore. Blaine's a vegan. There's many ways in which we are.
Oh my gosh, that is funny. I like all that. I will correct one thing. I also love cats. You just haven't known me in my cat phase, but I had one of my familiars for, I think he lived to like 18 or something. He was like amazing. His name was Bindi. He was an incredible creature in my life. So I just want to like re-establish that truth. I like all animals. But at the moment, neither of us has an animal. So that's interesting too. But what we really wanted to talk to y'all about is, you know that energy medicine yoga is steeped in 5-element theory. And that is basically the theory of everything. Like everything in the universe is in one of these 5 elements. And in Chinese medicine, those elements are water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. And it's a way to not simplify things because it's a very complex system, but it's a way of understanding everything, yourself, how you operate in the world, your emotional body, your physical body, the world around you, the cycles that you go through, the food that you eat, the people that are in your lives. It really is everything. And it's such a beautiful lens for understanding yourself and understanding other people. So Blaine and I have done some podcasts before about basic Chinese 5-element theory and each of the elements and what they're about. But I thought it'd be really fun to talk a little bit more deeply about the value of having all of the elemental people in your life, in your sphere, and specifically for this purpose, in your company or in your business. So Blaine and I just got back from an unbelievable yoga retreat, EM Yoga Longevity and Community Retreat in Costa Rica. Shout out to Blue Osa. It was an incredible retreat center. If you all are looking for a place to bring a group, it was absolutely unbelievable on every metric. And because everything that we do is through the lens of 5-element theory, we talked a lot about that and taught about that and shared with people about that. And like Blaine said, we really are very, very different people. And we also have a lot of similarities. And so I thought it'd be fun to talk a little bit about our primary and secondary elements and how that helps us in our company and in our personal relationship as well, because not only are we colleagues in our company, but we are friends. And so our elements really balance each other out, support our individual weaknesses because the other person has strengths that we don't have, and helps each of us to shine in what Blaine calls our zone of genius. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. Blaine, you want to tag in on that before we dive a little deeper?
I'll just add about the Costa Rica retreat. I have heard from a few people, not just one, since we got back, that our students, just for listeners who maybe aren't close energy medicine yoga students or haven't taken courses with us or been on retreat with us, many of the people who attended this retreat, maybe almost all of them, I would say know us well. Even if they hadn't met us in person, they've been listening to the podcast, they're students of ours, that sort of thing. And since the retreat is over, I've heard from more than one, a handful, that they thought our elements really shined, because Lauren and I were co-teaching this retreat. And so we had morning sessions and afternoon sessions, and I would lead, and then Lauren would lead, and the next day Lauren would lead, and then I would lead. And so we really shared the stage, sometimes together, but a lot, her on the stage, me on the side, or vice versa. And they thought it was crystal clear. It came through to them. Again, many of them know about 5 elements already, that they thought our partnership and their understanding of the elements and how we move through the world according to our element was a really important and fun part of the retreat. And that their point was that we balance each other so well, even though we're quite different.
I love that. And I definitely remember hearing that a lot while we were there because it was so crystal clear. One of the things, and people really love, hopefully all you listeners out there are kind of in this pocket as well. We all kind of want to understand ourselves better. And so there's many systems to do that. People are into astrology, or what's that one where you're like a 5-7 with a wing 3? Do you know that system?
The audience is going to kill us.
They're going to kill us.
I know what you're talking about. We'll see if it pops in our brain as we go.
Okay. But there's many. There's you said one that you used to use a lot in corporate.
Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs, yes. And then there's the whole Ayurveda lens of your doshas, which so many people know, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And so there's all these different lenses that we look through to try to understand ourselves better. And Chinese 5-element theory is one of those lenses. And so if you want to know the basics of all that, we'll drop in the show notes links to the other podcasts that we've done about 5-element theory. What I really want to talk about today is how we balance each other out in our business, in our company, because we're a small woman-owned company. We have a small staff of, I think, maybe 6 or so people who are all contributing to the success of energy medicine yoga. But Blaine and I are in the leadership roles. And so let's just dive in. I want to talk about what I appreciate most about Blaine's elements. So Blaine is a primary metal with a secondary wood. And I am a primary wood with a secondary water. Okay, so we'll talk as we discuss kind of what that means. But I want to start with what I appreciate about Blaine's elements. She's a primary metal with a secondary wood. So she is very organized, like in everything she does. In her personal life, she's organized. In her professional life, which is where it really shines for me, she's incredibly organized, systematic, systematized. Everything goes through a process, and it makes growing our company so much easier than the sort of ad hoc way that I was running the company before Blaine took over, because that's a part of my watery nature. It's just like whatever flows here, and then I'll go over there and do that. But that's not really a way to grow a company. And so when Blaine stepped into leadership role, it was incredible how quickly we started to get systems. And many of you know, if you run your own company, whether it's small or huge, you need to have systems. And so I really appreciate that, because I am not an organized person. I do not run systematically at all. In fact, in all of my books, I praise my editors for helping me organize my thoughts, and my writing, and so that it can become a book that's not just this chaotic bunch of information, but it's laid out in a very systematic way that people can absorb. So I really appreciate that in other people, because that's not something that I have really solidly in my own wheelhouse. Another piece of the metal part that I really appreciate is Blaine has this unbelievable ability of non-attachment. And that's a real powerful tenet in the yoga world as well. And that's something that I have struggled with my whole life. In fact, metal is part of my learning curve in this life. I need to learn to be more organized. I need to learn to let go, which is that part of non-attachment. But Blaine is the queen of that. You know, we try something, it doesn't work, she just lets it go. She has an idea that I maybe don't want to do, and I convince her we don't do it, and she just lets it go. She doesn't hold on to things. She never has a grudge. We never fight. Like, I don't think we've even had one fight or argument the whole 6 years we've been working together. But she just doesn't hold on to things. She allows them to just flow away, where I'm a holder on for like ever. And so I really feel like I learn a lot from Blaine about having that easeful perspective and that ability to let go. And one of the other things that I really love about that is she never makes me feel bad for the crazy ideas that I have. And I have a lot of crazy ideas, and I'll present them, and then she'll very easily say in her systematic way why X won't work, or Y won't work, or Z won't work, or why it won't work now, but it could work in the future. And I'll come just like raring to go, and she'll just lay out why it doesn't work. And then I'll just will understand it. And there's not this, I don't feel like she's shooting down an idea from a personality perspective, if that makes sense. Like, she doesn't want it because I do, or she's trying to pop the bubble of all my excitement. She's just really clear about what works and what doesn't. And so it allows me to come up with all these ideas, and then to start to learn how to just let them go, and know that if they're good ideas, that they'll come back in their right timing and they'll get filtered through. She's also a secondary wood element, which means she's really strong, which I appreciate because I'm a primary wood element. So I'm also a really strong person. And because of our secondary elements, that strength leads us to be stronger together and support and uplift each other, as opposed to battling each other, which can happen when you get two wood elements together. But because she has that metal, her ability to see with a kind of a higher vision, and her ability to let go, we don't ever fight. Our woods support each other to like get things done. And we can really just drill down and get a lot of stuff done in a really short amount of time, because we both have that really strong wood elementness. So I feel like it really we balance each other out in the best of ways in terms of running the company. And I'll just stop there because it also feeds into our friendship, but I want to stop for a moment and give Blaine a chance to speak, so that we really talk about balancing the company, and it's just not all me yammering on.
Yeah, thank you for saying all that, Lauren. That I was kind of smiling the whole time there, and I appreciate everything you said. So Lauren is primary wood, secondary water, and maybe she'll address this next time she speaks, but I think there are times that maybe she's thought maybe she's primary water, maybe not secondary water, but then convinces herself again she is probably primary wood. But it's normal for those of you who are not sure what you are and you're this or that in different situations. That's why we have a primary and a secondary. Different ones lead in different situations. So Lauren, primary wood, me, secondary wood. And I think anyone who has a successful business has some wood in them. Or at least even if it's not their primary or secondary, it really rises up in the realm of business owner. And I say successful business because wood energy is getter done energy. And there are people who are more maybe watery and start a business, but then it's never very successful because they don't have that wood follow through. And so Lauren started energy medicine yoga. I joined energy medicine yoga after Lauren started it. And after she had written 2 books, she already had 2 books out before I joined, which to me was wildly impressive. I have 0 published books. I like to write, but I have 0 published books. Lauren now still has 3. And so Lauren, on her own, got the business off the ground and did hire staff, accountants, finance people to help her do the legal and regulatory things and tax things and all of that you have to do to have a legitimate business. And so that is incredibly get her done energy, which is I appreciate so much. And really the reason why I'm in the position I'm in at Energy Medicine Yoga now as co-owner, because I wanted to invest in what she has created and take on a bigger role. And so Lauren, those roots are deep in that wood, that energy that she has. She can, draw up that water and get a lot done. Lauren also, an aspect of wood that she's very strong in is justice and not being able to stand by when there is a wrong or a perceived wrong. If something does not resonate with her, that there has been fairness and equality, it will not go unaddressed by Lauren. And a wonderful example that I have is, and maybe this was inequality or not, I can't really say the root, but what happened was Lauren has a neighbor who hit some hard times. And this neighbor was a beloved person in the community and in her ski community and lived very close to her and just hit some hard financial times and a hard time in life. And Lauren didn't know about it. And I think she went to take him cookies or say hi or something and said, "How are you doing?" And he told her honestly how he was doing, and it wasn't good. And that was absolutely unacceptable to Lauren. And so she took that wood energy, right action. Like, there is a problem. What is the right action for me to do? And she rallied her community. She had a huge fundraiser. She really took it upon herself to make it right for this person and make him okay and get him what he needed. And she did it very fast and raised a very impressive amount of money out of, nowhere to do this. And that is, it's so impressive, not just to have the idea I should help, but to just take it on. This needs to be done. I am the one to do it. I am going to do it and really be in service of someone else. I know that she's active in her local city council to speak her voice in matters that happen in her town. It's so this activism, Lauren gets a lot done. And there are times in our business where I'll choose how I say this. Someone that we interact with behaves in a way that Lauren does not consider okay. I'm kind of like, I'll just step back here and let Lauren take care of this. And I'll just watch from the bleachers because she's going to get it done. It's get her done energy. She cannot sleep. She cannot rest. It is not okay. And it's inspirational to me. I am inspired by her, not just decisive action, but how quick and thorough and passionate she is about it. And it's not like everything else she's doing, she just stops doing. She just adds another thing to her plate to get it done. Another thing I love about Lauren and the wood is, I just wrote another book. she's like, oh, in my spare time, she has all these unpublished books. She just wrote another one. And because she feels like I have something to write about. I need to get it out. I need to get it on paper. I need to get it done. Like she just can't sit on it. And so this quick, decisive action where I can be more analytical and how does this fit into the bigger picture? And is it going to be worth my time? The time value of money. Should I be doing this or should I be doing that? And I can get caught up in that and really have no action or very slow action. And that is not a problem for Lauren. And secondary water, just the incredible creativity. Water is my weakest element of the 5. I have to dig deep for creativity. And I have, since I have learned about the 5 elements, done a lot to balance my water. And my creativity is way better than it used to be. But she, her ideas, the way she thinks, the way she writes, she's not constrained by conventional thinking or the way that other people do things or solve problems. She really just has these unique and innovative and creative ideas that I would never have access to if we weren't working together. So that is what I love about the wood and the water.
I've been having a big grin. I guess I didn't realize that we were going to have, like, this would be the Mutual Appreciation Society. But I think also, thank you for saying all that, Blaine. That just, I'm going to have to like re-listen to this and take this all in. Cause I was like, in my brain, I'm like, okay, you're still in this podcast. What are you going to say next? And I was like, wow, she's just really, speaking just beautiful things. So thank you for saying all those things. And I think in terms of a company and the value of having these different perspectives is, it's really interesting. I didn't realize that water was one of your weaker, I think you may have said your weakest element, and metal is my weakest element. And so what we both have the least of, the other has such access to. And so we really can learn from each other. And again, to kind of put aside our personal relationship, but just to talk about the company. For a company to be successful, like you said, Blaine, we need to have wood energy. Like that's just a requirement. You have to get things done, and often against deadlines and often with competing, projects at the same time, right? So that wood element is really valuable. And I think the fact that we both have strong wood energy is what makes our company successful, and what is going to continue to make it even more successful and grow. But these other elements, the fact that we have access to the other piece about metal that's so powerful is they have the ability to rise up and see things from a really high perspective. We often use the metaphor of the eagle, like flying up and looking down. And an eagle can see a mouse at I think it's like a mile or 2 miles away flying in the air. That's an amazing perspective to have. And that is one of Blaine's superpowers, is she can fly up and see the whole picture. Where I'm a little bit more, think about the wood, like the tree on the ground. And what do they say? Like, you can't see the forest for the trees, right? And so I'm in the little tree in the ground, and I'm like sending out shoots, all the different limbs. We got to do this, we got to do this, and then we got to do this, we got to do that, and we got to do that, and we got to do them all right now. And Blaine flies up overhead, and she can see the big picture, and she says, well, actually, this one needs to come first. And then we need to give it room and space to grow before we plant something else. Because again, those of you who garden, and you know this, if you plant everything so close together, nothing gets enough sunlight and water and resources to grow. So everything needs space. And that's a very metal attribute. So to have that as the guiding principle of our company, this metal with a high viewpoint, long vision, perspective, and the ability to be very organized in how you then, manifest that vision. That's literally what the metal is. She's manifesting the vision. And that is unbelievably important in any kind of company. So the metal has that big vision, but the water, like Blaine was saying, has those creative impulses, the philosophy, the kind of visioning at the root level. Now, that's not the right word. I don't want to say root because that's more of a wood. But we often talk about water as the womb, right? We all come from this womby place where everything is possible. And so it's that vision that then rises up, manifests with the wood, and then the metal sees it from on high and sees the whole of everything. You think about water, yes, it's in the clouds, but it's in a very fine, kind of misty way. But when it rains down and becomes water, it needs to be contained. It needs to be contained for it to be of value. Otherwise, it just seeps into the earth and drains away. And so to have all of those elements working together in a company is super valuable. Now, we haven't talked about fire and earth, and those are the other two parts, the other two elements that Blaine and I both have some of both, but not an overwhelming amount of either. And so I think what we do there is we try to kind of pull that out for ourselves and for each other. So fire is really the inspiration piece. And here's an interesting thing. When you want to create fire, in the olden days, you would take two pieces of wood and you would rub them against each other, creating friction and heat until that would spark. And that spark would then, if you cared for it, if you like harbored it and cared for it and really allowed it to grow, would grow into a fire. And so the fact that Blaine and I are both wood elements, we can often, when we come to a crux point, we'll get on the phone and we'll get on a Zoom and we'll chew it out and we'll talk it through and what do you think? This and that. And we'll go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back until we create a spark. And that's the inspiration. And then we have the fire of what this project needs or whatever it is needs as the next piece. And then the earth element, I think I'll say a little bit and then I'll let you speak to the earth element. I feel like that is something that both Blaine and I are really learning in this life. Neither of us have biological children. We both have had beloved familiars with pets, creatures that we've had in our lives that I'm just going to say this, that were like children to us, that were part of the family. And we really try to nurture our students and our community in a way that brings our earth elements out even more. And so when I feel like, I really don't have enough earth in me and I need to expand that, earth is both things. It's about deeply caring and loving yourself, and it's about nurturing and caring for your community. And when that gets tweaked or out of balance, that can be not caretaking for yourself and being really nitpicky or gossipy or catty or cliquey or all of those sort of negative words about other people and about your community. And I think one of the pieces that, I hope this isn't going to sound too complicated, one of the pieces that really feeds into Blaine and I increasing our earth elements and our capacity to love ourselves and care for our community. Again, I'm going to go back to the wood. Wood is on the control cycle from earth. And when wood, dissolves and disintegrates, it becomes earth. And that's what happens. A tree grows, it falls down, it gets eaten by all the mushrooms, and then it becomes earth. And so that on that caretaking kind of continuum, we can learn from how sometimes maybe we're too get her done and not enough how are you doing. And so we can see that and sort of learn from that. But also that piece that Blaine brought out that I know, I'll just speak for myself, is really strong, that justice piece and fairness piece, when I see, especially, and this is no secret because I've talked about this on podcasts before, especially in the yoga community, which I just reflexively expect to be loving, heart-centered, generous, open, caretaking, all of those things. And when I see that it's not, over and over and over again, I get angry. That's my wood element getting really angry that that's not happening. So I could just get angry and spout off about that. Or what I can do, which I try to do more and more and more and more, is bring what I see missing into the world that I can affect, which is our company, our business, and then our community, which is part of our company. And so making sure that in our community, we are fair, we are open, we are compassionate, we're not catty, clicky, gossipy, all of those things. We really speak our truths and walk our truths to the best of our ability. And when we falter, we own up to it and make amends for it. Those are very woody qualities, but they also lead right into the earth quality of caretaking and caregiving and bringing this idea of love being the fountain of everything, bringing that back into the center of all the elements. So all of those together, I think, makes our company really strong. One more thing I'll say, and then I'm turning it back to you, Blaine, is the other people that we have in our community, in our company that work with us, two off the top of my head that I know very well are both primary earth elements. And so we have that earth energy in the company. So that's the value of having this mixture of all the elements, because if you just have one element, you just have one way of looking at things, one perspective, and you don't have that balance that really is the goal of everything that you're trying to achieve in life. What do you think about all that, Blaine?
Yeah, agree. I think, the fire, the way it is with the 5 elements, I love, we're both wood and you like rub the sticks together to get the friction for the fire. Absolutely. And the fire is the fun, right? And so, because who wants to have a business if it's not fun? And so, I think that Lauren, the parts of the business that I think are fun and the parts of the business that Lauren thinks are fun, I think are different parts of the business, which is why we can together get so much done. But it is that fire in the belly, right? I mean, there's so, yes, we have the idea and we do what we need to do to make the idea come to fruition. And then that's the fun part, getting to actually do it. And so I think Lauren and I both, bring the flame when it comes to the joy and the, I like this job. I like what I'm doing. And then fire feeds into earth. And even though I'm not an earth primary, and it is part of my journey in this life, is to be more to learn how to, in a balanced way, serve others. And I really, I'm much better at it at this age than I was 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, I was in corporate. I was super fiery in my metal and I was getting it done, serving other people for the pure purpose of service. I had to learn that from yoga and really step into that role. And I've come a long way and I love it so much. And at this point, it is my favorite part. I'm maybe more like a tiger mom. We have most of the people drawn to energy medicine yoga and the people just on retreat with us are very earthy people. It is, we attract a crowd of earth people. So when it comes to our community, they're taking care of each other. They're taking care of Lauren. They're taking care of me. But I mean, we are definitely surrounded by earth, and they look to us as the container holders. Like Lauren and I, we're holding this container that they're all in, but for the love of God, do not mess with my community. I feel like I'm less of sweet grandma with the oatmeal cookies, and I'm like tiger mom, do not F with this company or you are going to hear about it. So I think my earth comes out a little fiery, Lauren.
I love that. I love the tiger mom. That is such a great metaphor. And I think, you know, again, it's so interesting how the wheel works because that's very protective, right? And that protective is part of the fire element as well. Fire element is, yes, about fun and inspiration, but it's also the protector. And that, just that internal protection and external protection. And so that tiger mother, and also, you know, the other piece of that is, I mean, I'm just thinking back to actually that book. She was not only like, don't mess with my kid, but also my kid, I'm going to make sure is a super high achiever. And I think in our community as well, and in our teachings, we're always trying to, I used to say this forever, and I hope that this doesn't make you upset, Blaine, but I'm trying to work myself out of a job. What I mean by that is I don't ever want to be the yoga teacher or the the anything that you're like coming to me for the answers and the, you know, solutions and what do I do next? And, you know, and a lot of teachers really love that. They love having their students dependent on them. And that is not at all the kind of teacher I am. I want to give you the tools that I've learned and cultivated and grown and whatever, or created. I want to give them to you. I want to teach you how to use them, and I want you to go and use them. And so I think that our students also really appreciate the fact that we're not the spoon feeding, you know, here and come back for more. And I'll just give you a little. Oh, I've had those teachers that like, I'll give you a teeny bit and then I'm holding all the wisdom so that you've got to come back to me for the wisdom. Like that's such a patriarchal, in the worst sense, way of teaching because it creates dependency. And we've seen this over and over again in spiritual communities where there's abuse in spiritual communities because the leaders have created dependency. And that creates a power dynamic that is just wide open for abuse. And you know, power corrupts absolutely no matter what. You could be a spiritual leader and you are corrupt and you are corrupting your communities. And you just do one quick Google search, you know, scandals in the yoga world, and you'll come up with, 12 billion hits, right? So I think that earth energy that both Blaine and I bring is not that, you know, come here and we'll keep feeding you and feeding you and feeding you and feeding you. It's like, teach a woman to fish, right? Or teach a woman to make tofu, right? And then, and so that our goal is to create conditions by which everyone can get what they need so that they can be their best selves on their path and then share that out and share that out and share that out, as opposed to having a group of people who just need me and Blaine to just get through their days. And that's sort of what I think is really out of balance earth energy. It's like, and that is really the typical out of balance earth energy is the moms who need the kids to need them. And then that's how they define themselves. And we're trying to be more in balance by, you know, we want each of our students to like get wings and fly away and then drop us a line every now and then from the beautiful things that they're seeing in the world.
Yeah, agree. So have we covered all the 5 elements, you think,
I think we have.
From a business perspective? Yeah, I think we have.
Yeah. So if you're starting a company, when you're interviewing people, I would say the first thing to do is do the 5 element quiz and find out who you are. And you already probably know your strengths. And if you're starting a company, you've probably got some wood energy in you, but maybe you don't. And you still want to start a company because you've got this inspiration from either the water or the fire, and you want to start a company. And so find out your element. And then when you're interviewing people, I would put that as a question. And we do when we're interviewing for new positions in our company, we want to know your element. We want to know what you are bringing to the table because your personality is expressed through your element. And so we want to know. And so I would suggest doing that. If you're starting a company or growing your company, you want to have a really balanced group of people, and you want to be specific in the tasks that you give. Like your customer service people, you want them to have a lot of earth energy in them. Your people, that are editing, you really want them to have a lot of metal in them. And so, you can start to, the people that are going out, like getting subscriptions or whatever, you want them to have a lot of wood energy. So you can start to craft your positions so that, again, I'm going to go back to what Blaine said long ago that really has helped our company is everyone working in their zone of genius so that people are joyful in their positions instead of dragging into work, punching out of work, and then going to do what they love to do. We want people to love the work that they're doing so that they bring the best of themselves to it. And then here's the wood element piece too. I'm just going to say this out there. We want to really compensate the people in your company to the best of your capacity. So that's a really important piece as well in the energetics of it all. A lot of energy people don't want to talk about money and all of that, but the truth is that is an energy that powers the world. And so, especially in the healing worlds, there's a lot of resistance to that. But if you start to look at the financials as energy, then you understand that you really need powerful energy to realize your dreams. And if you have people helping you realize your dreams, you want to help them realize theirs as well. And so you want to compensate them well energetically, which also means financially, so that the growth happens in a holistic way, not in this pyramidical way. And I think that's really, again, we're talking about the wheel, outward expansion. And I think that's really what we need in the world for the healing of the world. We need to stop this kind of top down and really start to expand in a holistic way. And that's 5-element theory for you in a nutshell.
It is. I hope this was helpful for people. We're getting ready to start a brand new 200-hour yoga teacher training in February. If you're interested in that, and we're starting at February 15th, you can go to our website, emyoga.net, and get some information on that. I didn't say that as a sales pitch. My point was, but I didn't want to not say it in case someone's interested, is that as I'm crafting this 200-hour yoga teacher training, I'm thinking about the iteration of teaching 5-element theory. Because it's not just like, hey, let's listen to a 30-minute lecture on 5-element theory and I understand it all. It's this iterative thing. Lauren and I can sit here and talk about it because we started somewhere, we got some education. We've each read at this point a lot of books about 5-element theory. And then I've gone at it through Chinese medicine. I've gone through it through food energetics, through Donna Eden's school, the way different teachers teach it. And so I do not have the idea in a 200-hour teacher training that I can just do one lecture on 5-element theory and they're going to understand how it's the backbone of everything we do. And so I'm building these iterations all through the 200 hours so that when they come out at the end, they have more and more opportunity to really understand 5-element theory, because then they'll go on and learn more energy medicine, yoga, and that sort of thing. So I say that because we're doing it here on the podcast too. In, many different ways, we're trying to circle back to the ways that we think through 5-element theory and talk them through with you. And so that you can start to understand it too, because it's thousands of years old and it is nature and we are nature. And so it's maybe one of the most foundational things about energy medicine yoga. If you have any questions about it, please put them in the comments. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or YouTube or Spotify or whatever, you can also send us an email. Just go to the website and there's contact information there, because we'd love to hear from you and we'd love to know any questions that you have. And I think we're good for today, Lauren. Agree? Anything you want to close with?
No, that was perfect. I love that. 5-element theory is the spiral that keeps on giving. And so I just love talking about it, learning about it, sharing about it. And so I'm really excited to hear some comments come in and see what all you out there in pod listening land have to think about as well. And let us know what you think.
Thanks, everybody. Bye. Alrighty, Energy fans, that's a wrap on another positively charged episode of Energy Works. Lauren, this is the part where we get to use our energy puns.
It's been electrifying, hasn't it, Blaine? We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have.
If you're feeling amped up and you want to keep your energy flowing, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform.
And we'd love to hear from you, so please take a moment to leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to deliver content that resonates, so light up our inbox.
And spark a conversation with your friends to tell them about us. And we'll see you next time on Energy Works.